Check 1, 2. All right. Hey, good afternoon. It is Friday, January 3rd. I am that developer dad, and I'm building applications with C# and .NET and all that good stuff. And in order for me to get my online storefront approved by the company that I'm going to engage with as my merchant of record, they need to see a demo video of the product that I'll be selling live and operational. So that's what I'm going to do this afternoon. And this is going to be a fairly short stream. I'm just going to go through the features, and I'm going to go through it twice, once with the desktop, once with a remote view of my iPhone so that we can see what it looks like on a mobile experience. And then if anybody comes in, I'll hang out and chat after that demo is done. But otherwise, I'm going to probably end the stream once the demo is recorded and get back to reviewing my to-do list for getting this thing launched and live. So, without further ado, here is main screen turn on. Here we go. So this is the homepage that you will see when you load into the application in your browser. And I'll have links and all that good stuff. And let's just make that big enough that it fits like that. Very good. So you'll come into the application via its URL, and you'll be greeted with this landing page. We've got Sleepy Kitty here. She's sort of the representation of the DM's familiar concept. And we've got an about section that talks about what the app does. I do need to add a features page once I've got more than one feature. But let's sign up or sign in. So we'll let the Sleepy Kitty know that we're here. And in we go. And I'm just going to sign in with my fingerprint. And Microsoft Entra is doing its thing. And here we go. What can I help you create today? Right now, it's just a townsfolk builder, but I do have some additional features planned once I'm live and I've started to gather feedback from some end users. So let's go ahead and open up the townsfolk generator. And here's a list of all of the non-player characters that I've generated while developing this application. Before we look at any of these, let's see what that process looks like. So we'll click on New NPC. Now, we can either completely randomize a person that they meet. Let's say your characters have walked into a tavern and they're hanging out and they strike up a conversation with the person at the next table. Well, that one of those people could be a halfling who's a retired herbalist who used to be a sailor. Let's get some more details about this guy. So I'm going to go ahead and generate an AI description for him. Click that button. And Sleepy Kitty's awake, and she's thinking. She's working on it. And then when it comes back in just another second from the language model that I'm using, we find out that our tavern neighbor's name is Milo Greenbottle. He's got a light complexion. He's a halfling. He's got curly black hair, and he's usually wearing simple earth tone clothing. He's cheerfully curious, loves to tell stories. He's now retired, but he spends his days tending to his garden and sharing his herbal knowledge with the local community. And he spent his early life at sea, and so on and so forth. I don't need to read that whole screen to y'all. And there we go. And now we can save that guy. And it's persisted in the cloud. It takes a second sometimes. And it'll come back in a moment. And here we go. So let's go back to our list. And there's Milo right up at the top. And that's pretty much our feature set. We can see down at the bottom that I've got 65 out of 100 possible NPCs stored. For paid subscribers, I do have to have a limit on these things. You're going to be able to store up to 100 NPCs. I'll be adding a delete button within the next week or so. And the AI details, you can generate 100 NPCs per month. And at the start of the month, or at the start of your next billing cycle, you'll get this AI details will go back to 0 out of 100, and it'll just count up as you generate NPCs and other things as I add those. So let's take a look at what this looks like on a phone. So I'll bring my iPhone mirror onto screen. Here it is. Familiar site. So let's sign up or sign in. And it might take a second. Here we go. And I'll just use my fingerprint. It'll ask for that in a second. There we go. Normally it'd use Face ID, but I'm mirrored into my iPhone from my Mac. And here we go. So let's go to our townsfolk. And like I said, these get stored in the cloud. And here's Milo, right here on the page. Now, something I didn't show on the desktop view that I should show you here is sometimes having just a random character isn't enough. Your players will have entered, say, a smithy. So here we go. Here's a smith. And we know they're not retired, so we'll keep that. And let's say this smith is a half-elf. We know that much. We don't know anything about their background. We don't know if they're male or female, so we'll just roll the dice on that. We've got a half-elf. They're they, them. Let's see if we can get, here we go, a female half-elf. She's 93. She's 5'6", 147 pounds, fair complected, straight black hair. All of this stuff you can do for free. This rolling the dice, that doesn't chew up any AI. So you can click this dice as many times as you want until your heart's content. And then once we finally get to a place where, yeah, okay, this looks like an interesting character. They grew up as a criminal. They're a smith now. Well, let's get some details. So Blinky Kitty, she thought fast this time. And we've got Aaron Thorne. He was raised in a rough environment. He fell into a life of crime early on, but seeking redemption, he apprenticed under a master smith to learn his new trade. So let's go ahead and save. We'll go back to our list, and here's Aaron Thorne right there at the top of our list. Now, this is what I'm going to be launching with right off the bat. I will be adding the ability to filter your non-player character lists. I'll be adding a delete button for non-player characters that you don't need anymore so that you can free up some space in your storage. I'll be additionally adding in the ability to edit any of these details. Some other things that I'll be bringing in the very near future are actual game statistics. Strength, constitution, dexterity, wisdom, intelligence, charisma, hit points, armor class. If there's any skills that an NPC may have via their profession or their background, I'll be incorporating those into the write-up. I'll also be adding the ability to export this either as a plain text file or perhaps even as a PDF or a JPEG or a PNG or something like that. So I've got some work to do on here, but this is enough for me to get started. And I'll be adding those additional capabilities for NPC management in the very, very near future. I'm probably going to start working on those Monday. And then if we go back out to the homepage, right now, we've only got a townsfolk creator. But these townspeople are going to need shops and taverns and places to work and places to live. And I want to do the same kind of thing that I did with the townsfolk with shops, taverns, homes, uh, apothecary shops, so on and so forth, smithies, leather worker places, things like that, to really help you bring your world to life. This isn't just for dungeon masters either. As as one who sometimes likes to do creative writing, I'll I'll be writing a story or something like that, and I'll have the main characters in my story meet somebody, and I haven't I'm so focused on what the main characters are doing and what's happening in the world and so on that I haven't got the brain space to be able to figure out really any of the details about these non-main characters, these walk-ons that come along. And I feel like this would be a great helper for people that are engaged in writing stories to help bust through writer's block or what have you. Um, just to give you some idea seeds, so to speak. So there's there's my application. It's just a start. There's going to be a lot more coming in the future. Um, I want to add some other things that are helpful for dungeon masters. Um, in the distant future, I'd love to perhaps introduce some science fiction rule sets or some cyberpunk rule sets so that you can generate characters in those genres as well. Maybe some horror. I don't know. We'll see. I've got all kinds of plans and all kinds of ways that I can integrate new features into this, and I look forward to getting to that. But first, I got to get it launched, and I got to get some people using it and subscribe to it so that I can afford to host it. So thanks for tuning in, and um, there's my demo. Akram, how are you, man? I haven't seen you in a while. You've been good? Slow response. I was recording a demo video for this product. And yeah, so there we go. We could actually go look at the roadmap. And like I said, I want to give people the ability to filter their lists, edit the descriptions either before or after AI generation. Any text you add or descriptions or attributes or anything like that that you plug into a character before you send it to the AI, I'm going to instruct the AI to not generate or overwrite any of that content. We need a delete button, export and save, hometown and location fields, make that searchable because most D&D campaigns happen in a lot of towns and worlds get big. And game stats, because a lot of players that I've run games for seem to really, really enjoy uninstalling the birthdays of the NPCs. And no, Nine, this is not Comic Sans. It's a font face called Architect's Daughter. And I really, really liked it for the sort of editorial content. Basically, where I'm writing as me in my own voice. I wanted to use like sort of a more handwritten type font for those sections. So I'm using that on the roadmap, on the about page. But if we get into the actual content and we look at a character, I'm using just a plain sans serif font for that. And then I'm using my fancier font for headings and so on. But no, it's not Comic Sans. I might use that for the privacy policy and all the legalese crap, just because I'm a sicko like that. And I do need to bring in privacy policy and legalese and stuff like that um, into all of this stuff. But yeah, that's my app. And going back to the roadmap, like I said, these are the features that I'm probably going to start working on next week while I'm waiting for Dingbats. Yeah, there we go. Um, while I'm waiting for Lemon Squeezy to get off their butts and approve my shop and everything like that, I'm probably going to start adding the additional capabilities to the NPC management. I also want to do some iteration on the actual AI prompts to maybe give it a little bit more detail than what it's putting out right now. And I also want to see if I can refine the way it generates things. Maybe do a couple of the attributes in parallel. I'd like to have it generating the NPC's name based off of things like the profession and the background details, perhaps. Maybe even specify a family name, like have a user be able to select a family name or what have you from other characters that have been generated. And then once that's done, and I've got people using it, and I've got people happy with the NPC portion, I want to add more generators, taverns, shops, points of interest in the places where the player characters will be hanging out. Later on, even more generators like towns and settlements, rule set customization, so that when you're in here with an NPC or you're generating an NPC, come on, wiki wiki. I also have to upgrade the hosting when I go live and people are paying for it, because it sometimes takes a little nap like this on the free host that I'm using. I may have run out of server time for the day. That's fine. But when you go into the NPCs and you hit generate, if you're in the Elven homeland, the likelihood of, say, a half orc being fairly common is going to be much, much lower than you would have of, say, elves, half elves. You might have some dragonborn and gnomes or halflings. You might not have as many dwarves. You probably won't have as many humans, and so on. So I want to be able to set up weights for the different species. There may be certain professions that just don't exist in your game world. So I'd like to give users the ability to select which professions are which professions participate in the random dice rolling that happens behind the scenes. Same thing with backgrounds. Probably not going to do custom professions or backgrounds or species yet. I have to figure out what those data structures would look like and how they'll interact with all the other things. But yeah, I'd like to do some level of customization to the rule sets at some point. And of course, that would have to be on a world by world basis, which means I have to introduce the idea of a user of this app managing multiple game worlds. And we're starting to really blow up the scope. So that's why these features are later. Basic player character database, just things like name, hit points, armor class, passive perception, insight, the stuff that a dungeon master needs at a glance during a game session. Another thing is an encounter builder, an initiative helper, so that we can actually create and store the different encounters that you expect to happen during your next game session. And then when the encounters happen, you'll be able to, with a button click, roll initiative for everybody on your side, tell your players, okay, roll initiative, everybody, punch in their results, and then start combat. And it'll take turn by turn, highlight whose turn it is. And then when it's a critter or somebody that they're fighting or whatever, I might have uh, links to, well, this guy swings his sword. He's +5 to hit. He does 1d6 +2 damage. This one breathes fire, etc., etc. Just the basic stuff. Not the full monster manual entries or anything like that. Just the things that a dungeon master needs in the middle of a play session while you're running it to keep it running smoothly so that you're not flipping back and forth through, the monster manual and the dungeon master's guide and all that stuff. And for that, I would also need to introduce a basic creature catalog that would incorporate all the critters available in the 5e system reference document, the stuff that Wizards released to Creative Commons last year. And once that's in place, well, imagine the kinds of people that you could create in the NPC generator. You could have goblin NPCs, ogres, orcs, trolls, you name it. In a big city, you could have any of them. You might have a dragon in disguise. You might have a mind flayer in disguise. Although mind flayers aren't part of the SRD, so never mind that. But yeah, lots of possibilities for the future. I'm very excited. But first, we got to get this off the ground. And that is my current focus, besides obviously trying to find a job, because money is good. And that's my session for the day. I've recorded my demo. I've talked about the product. And stay tuned. As soon as I have everything hooked up and the payment processor has given me the thumbs up and I can integrate and test and do all of that stuff, we'll go live with this. But while I'm waiting for that stuff to happen, I've got a big, long to-do list of tasks and so on that I'm going to start working through. And I'm probably going to start adding some of these missing features maybe next week. So, yeah. Thanks for hanging out. Have yourselves a great weekend. And play safe. Have fun. Take care.